Hi and welcome to the first of the Amazing Vile Arts podcast. I'm delighted that you can join me here in my wonderful house. You can see that I'm surrounded by the tools of my trade, the things that I love, the books, the bike with the flat tyres, and of course the coffee and the roll-up cigarettes. You may remember me from such works as The Last Temptation of Criticulous, or the critically ignored I Love Criticulous and Criticulous Loves Me. Anyway, I'm here today to talk. I'm here today to talk about the Unfix festival. I've been having a few problems discussing it really because, well, what do you do with a festival? That's my kind of question. Unfix was set up by Paul Michael Henry. It is Paul Michael Henry. Yeah, Paul Michael Henry. It was an outgrowth of his work as a Butoh performer and promoter, I guess, although that suggests a big financial thing. And he did this out of love and passion, and he set it up with no funding. So if you're in the Scottish Arts Council, I know you watch my stuff, guys, give him some money, because this was a really exciting festival. The problems I have are not so much with individual pieces, but actually what I'm supposed to do with the festival, how I'm supposed to judge it. I know it's become kind of a fashionable thing to set up festivals over the last 5 years. I did this piece in the Skinny slagging it off once, and it's great because there's tons of stuff on, but what do you do as a critic? What do you do? Are you talking about individual works? Are you talking about the atmosphere of the festival? Are you talking about the relationship between pieces? Now, if I take individual works, there's a lot of really great work. All festivals are kind of hit and miss. That's just their nature, because everyone has different tastes and everyone has different opportunities to experience work. And for me, I've seen a lot of stuff and I just sit there waiting for someone to do something disgusting on stage so I can add it to my tick box of things I haven't seen. Again, if you're an artist out there, do something gross and I'll totally come along, because I'm not into that stuff, but it's just a thing, isn't it, of collecting the set of bodily functions. So yeah, anyway, there were some great shows, great pieces in it. It's odd to pick them out, but I'm going to Ken Mai, who ended the weekend, last performance. He's a very, very Butoh performer from Japan. He's the real deal, if you like. Now, I'm not saying that on racial grounds. I don't think Butoh is exclusively performed well by Japanese people. There was plenty of British people actually having a crack at a bit of Butoh during the week, including the organiser himself, Paul. So yeah, that's fine. But there's something about the art form coming from Japan in the 1960s, taking on the challenges of 1960s culture, the conflict in Japan, the kind of things Julian Cope talks about in his book, The Jap Rock Sampler, where the new wave, if you like, of rock and roll coincided with the sort of traditions and old fashions, and there was a lot of conflict, youth conflict, of course. So Ken Mai, amazing piece of work, and for me he sums up a lot of what I think about as queer performance itself, in that you're never quite sure the gender identity, the sexual identity, is the character good or is the character evil? It's kind of all up in the air, which is really exciting. And it's kind of like the Buffon, I guess. Anyway, it was really good. It was really good. Other pieces, F.K. Alexander collaborating with Sarah from Grimalkin. I hope I pronounced that correctly, because it's spelt with a couple of fives in it. But they did a piece where F.K. moved across the room very, very slowly, grinding her way through a mixture of, I think it was burnt wood, charcoal, and what appeared to be grit, and really just pushing through it. And this idea of human, well, the Sisyphus, Mr. Sisyphus stuff, the human trying to get through something. 40 minutes loud music, that's great. There was a couple of other sound art pieces which were really exciting to be immersed in. I'm going to come back to them later on. And there was a few bits and pieces of people trying out their Butoh chops, and a few bits and pieces from what I call the live art scene in Glasgow, or I think I called them the Young Live Art Scene once. People coming out of the CPP course, this experimental work that's somewhere between visual art, somewhere in durational art, bits and pieces. Elaine, what am I saying? Stephanie Wright was, hang on, no, it's not Stephanie Wright. Stephanie Black's piece, which was a collaboration with Thomas, was an exciting piece of work because we've seen it in various iterations, and that was one of the things, is this was a festival that was about what's going on in Glasgow and slightly further abroad as well. There's a Butoh theme, but the Unfixed theme, now here's where it comes in back to what I was talking about at the beginning probably. The Unfixed theme is about ecology, the relationship of performance to the environment, and the evenings started off, well, the first evening did on Friday, and it actually didn't start with this, but it was a main piece on the Friday with Alistair McIntosh, who is an environmental campaigner, a Christian, who did something that was quite interesting in terms of being a shamanic poetry reading with a bit of lecture in it. And so the idea across the weekend was, how do these works? How do these conversations? How do the group of people who are in the CCA? Very convenient for me. I like that a lot because I could go back to my office and I get a cup of tea whenever I felt like it. How do those people come together to unfix the situation we're in at the moment? And that's where I start to struggle. Not because it's not valid, not because they didn't come up with any questions or answers, but just because it disorientates me as a critic. That's who I am. That's my subjective self. Let's remember, I'm all about the subjectivity. And so I'm pondering a lot, how do I relate things to each other? How do I take that vision of the world? How do I think about what performance is? These are big questions. Cheers for making me ask them. Anyway, thanks for listening. I think I'll come back to this later on. I might have to tidy up a little bit, I'm not sure. Let's just get this switched off and that. Can we maybe just get a couple of these books put away before I slip over?